Hello, Miss Ray here today, and I wanted to share with you in this video how to make banana bread. I have had some ripe old bananas hanging out on my counter, just ready to be made into banana bread. So I will let you know a couple things. I don't drink or eat dairy because it makes me sick, and I have a partner who can't have eggs. So this awesome banana bread is dairy and egg free. So I have set most of the things up to get started. What you'll want is a banana bread or a bread pan if you have it. I actually don't, which is really odd because I bake a lot, but I use a small 6-inch cake pan and it actually bakes up great in there. What I did in the baking pan is took a little bit of Crisco and spread it around, and then I put some flour in and I banged it around so it got all coated, and then it's ready to go. The other thing you'll want to do is preheat, and you can have a parent help you with this part, your oven to 350 degrees. So let's go ahead and get started with baking. All right, I set everything up, and what we'll go ahead and do first is I like to mash my bananas, and I already have 3 bananas in here, and I probably add just like one more or maybe both of those depending on how they look. And one of the things is that I don't actually mash my bananas totally. I keep them a little bit poopy, like more chunky. That's just a personal preference. So I'll add one more banana in here. And I'm gonna actually just wait to mix that and mash that up when I mix it into the batter. All right. Next, we will stir together the milk. So this is a trick that's often used in baking when you don't use regular dairy, but you can actually use regular milk if you want to. So I measured out my milk, and then I am going to put in apple cider vinegar. And you can use whatever kind of apple cider vinegar you have in your house. And you mix in 1/2 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar into your milk. And what that does is curdle the milk, which sounds so gross, but actually it makes your bread or your cakes really, really moist. So it's super tasty. And then you mix that in, set it off to the side, wait for it to do its thing, and then you're going to mix together the butter and some sugar. Actually, I didn't get my butter out, so let's do that. So the recipe calls for a 1/2 cup of butter. It's actually really helpful if you let your butter sit out a little bit. I forgot in my excitement to do this video, so I'm just gonna stir it up a little bit in the container. Again, the recipe is gonna call for a non-dairy butter, and that's what I'm using since I can't eat it, but you can actually do what you need. Whatever you have in your house is more than okay. So a 1/2 cup of butter. And just plop that into the bowl. And then it calls for 1 cup of brown sugar. So take my brown sugar out, pour it into the cup, measuring. And with brown sugar, some recipes will call for it packed. Sometimes they'll be specific and call for it unpacked, but it doesn't really matter. I usually pack it. That's nice and make sure I get that full cup in there. and dump it in. If you have a hand mixer, you can mix it by hand. Thought that might be a little loud for the video, so I'm just gonna stir it up. You wanna stir it until you feel like the butter and the sugar are really light and fluffy together. Alright, so then the next step after you get your butter and your sugar all mixed together, I'm scraping, sorry. Alright, good. Is add the bananas. Bananas. No bananas get left behind. Okay, add the bananas. Done. Add some vanilla. I'm out of vanilla. So I grabbed my almond extract, which will work just fine. It calls for a teaspoon of vanilla, which I'll just use some almond extract instead. And then I also have a little bit of vanilla bean paste since I'm out of vanilla. Still want a little bit of that flavor, so I snagged it. And I'm gonna plop a little bit of that in there as well. I don't actually remember why I needed to buy this, but I had it, so I figured I'll use it. Plop that in. And then stir this up. Oh, and the milk. Let's not forget milk. All right. And then we'll stir this up until mostly mixed together. Stick my own mixer there. This is what mine looks like inside. You can see I left my bananas a little bit more chunky, just like the way it tastes when it comes out. It has like a little bit more moisture to it. I like it. That's just me. So now what we're gonna do is set this wet mixture off to the side and grab a clean bowl to mix our dry mixture. Mixer there. This is what mine looks like inside. You can see I left my bananas a little bit more chunky, just like the way it tastes when it comes out. It has like a little bit more moisture to it. I like it. That's just me. So now what we're gonna do is set this wet mixture off to the side and grab a clean bowl to mix our dry mixture. And we'll start with the flour. So the flour, it calls for 1.5 cups of regular flour. And here is where I think it's really fun and it is possible to try out new things. So if maybe you can't have gluten, you can try an all-purpose gluten-free flour. I bet it would work great. You could use almond flour, oat flour would even work if you're gluten-free. This recipe calls for a mixture of white flour and whole wheat flour. I have actually used all whole wheat flour before as well. So I am going to do 1/2 cup, 1.5 cups of regular flour. And you could also just do all white flour as well. And something that I learned when I had a cupcake business is that you want to sort of fluff up your flour inside the bag a little bit so that it's nice and light. And then it's really good at not to press your flour down, but rather to scrape it off with a butter knife. If you press the flour down into the measuring cup and smoosh it, you will actually end up with too much flour for your recipe. And then it can kind of make your, whatever you're making, a little dense, just like a little heavy. So I just like to fluff it up in the bag and scrape it off with a knife. So I have 1.5 cups of white flour, and then the recipe calls for another half a cup of whole wheat flour. So if you want, you can just do another half a cup of white flour. I'm gonna go ahead and add the half a cup of whole wheat flour. I find that it gives it kind of a nuttier flavor, so if you like nuts, it's a good option. Then what you'll do is take the dry mixture and mix it into the wet mixture. Sometimes recipes will have you go the other way around. I typically don't have a preference. I just happened to use the silver bowl for my wet mixture and it was bigger, so this just seemed easier. Perfect. Now we're gonna mix those together until you start to have them combine. Maybe another project we'll be making Boys and Girls Club aprons. I don't have a sewing machine, but that would be really fun. If you make a apron for baking Boys and Girls Club treats, let me know. I'd love to see them. Alright, so now my batter is mixed the most of the way. I'm just going to take it out of the little whisk here, all the little extra bits. If your mom lets you lick the batter, ask for permission first. You can do that. But, alright, get this glob out of here. Okay. So then from here, there are so many options of banana bread. You can add nuts. I love nuts in my banana bread. Walnuts are great. Pecans are great. I didn't have any on hand today, so I'm going to use chocolate chips instead. Chocolate chips. And I'm not measuring. I'm just going for it. Chocolate chips are great. Cranberries could be good, like dried cranberries. Maybe raisins could be good baked in it. Trying to think what else. Those are mainly the ones that I can think of. Ooh, maybe like butterscotch chips. Who knows? Be fun. And then I'm gonna put some of the batter into my tin and just pour it in. Probably about halfway. I only have one of these, so I'm gonna bake 2 batches separately. Almost like a little banana bread cake. Smooth it around